Okay, I'm going to start something new here, in that once a week I'm going to strongly recommend something that any of you can find on one of the major streaming services that you most likely already subscribe to. I don't, I no, I normally only talk about things that I like, but this is going to be a strong recommendation, and it's not something that you have to buy. You can find it on something that you most likely already have a subscription to. And by that I mean something like, say, HBO Max, Disney Plus, Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon. One of those major streaming services will have this. And this week I am strongly recommending that you check out the 1980s television series Hill Street Blues, which is available in its entirety on Hulu. Hill Street Blues is the type of show that I don't think you could get away with making today, in that it doesn't have in that it has a strong point of view, but it doesn't have a point of view where it places blame on any one group of people or any one person for any of the problems that it shows. It was a revolutionary series when it came out, but that isn't why you should watch it just because it changed things at the time it was broadcast in the early 1980s. Now, the reason why you should watch it is that it still stands up as one of the finest pieces of television ever made today. This is the type of show that just attempts to hold a mirror up to reality while also having strong storylines coming from a gifted pool of writers who are on the show, who who don't mind throwing in a little humor here and there that is actually funny and comes from the characters being in these situations. It's a range soaked show that has a strong sense of melancholy about it. Even when the sun is out, you feel like it has only just stopped raining and you can see the dampness. The show chronicles the daily lives of officers working out of the Hill Street precinct in an unnamed American city. The uh, the each episode covers one day in their lives, starting with the morning roll call held by Esterhausen. And I have to say, I don't think any other show has really captured just the atmosphere and what it feels like to be in a working class meeting, before work meeting, as this show. As somebody who has been in these almost every day of my adult life, I can tell you this is what it feels like, even though this was made years before I was born. This just feels right. And this is the type of show that just has people trying to get through the day. No one is trying to change the world. Idealists quickly learn that there is more work cut out for them than they can handle, and that maybe they shouldn't be so judgmental of the people just trying to make it through the day. This doesn't portray this doesn't portray police officers as perfect. In fact, some of them are insanely fallible, and you will see cover-ups of minor crimes and drunkenness. You'll see drunkenness on the job that nearly destroys one character. Surprises abound about the backstories of other characters. The show even opens with the oldest member of the cast, Esterhausen, actually being engaged to an 18-year-old high school girl. So these are fallible people working in an impossible place. But it also doesn't pretend that they are the cause of all the problems around them, or that there is any quick fix. It also shows things like how welfare degrades people to degrades people in some ways, in that it reduces people to only thinking about their next welfare check, and so they become less focused on making their community a better place. The people who work hard are almost always shown in a more positive light, and but they also are not perfect. There are no angels here. This is supposed to be one of the most crime-filled sections of a major American city, and it shows. Things are falling apart. And the police department has to operate within a realistic budget. Cases get kicked out on minor technicalities all the time. One major storyline in season 2 features features a murder of a main character's best friend, and when she seeks justice, twice technicalities get the murderer off. And even when they do finally catch him, it's for murdering someone else, and he laughs in their face because the other person he murdered, he got into a he got into a fight with, and it was a crime of passion. So he tells them the realistic truth after they give him the speech about how they got him, and it seems like justice has been served. He throws it back in their face and reminds them that because it was a crime of passion and there was a fight involved, the most he will do is 3 years in prison. The criminals in this Nova system, and the police sometimes have to make deals with them just to be able to exist in this area. They are they are pretty much abandoned by the larger society because society doesn't want to hear about these problems. They'd rather just shove the people who have them and the police who have to deal with them up in this one precinct and just never mention them unless there are political points to be scored. The main, the closest thing to a main character we have, Captain Farillo, was something different on TV at the time in that there hadn't really been any sort of police show that showed anything from the boss's point of view. It was always on the ground detectives, and believe me, we get plenty of the detectives, but we also see what patrolmen have to deal with and what he has to deal with, and the politics involved, and the fact that he constantly has politicians breathing down his neck, people hoping that he or somebody there will screw up, and we see that he is loyal to his men, but that loyalty only goes to a point, and he does have to lay down the law and be detached. Nobody in authority can be the friends of those below them. That is another way that this is realistic, and you don't really see that on TV anymore. That is another. It feels refreshingly realistic. If someone is your boss, they can't be your friend because they can't be an effective authority figure because no matter how good you are at your job, at some point you're going to screw up and you have to be told that. And you have to be told in no uncertain terms that it won't be tolerated. That happens a lot, and Farillo, whilst being shown to be a nice person, and a smart guy, has to lay down that law pretty regularly. And you see one of the most realistic depictions of alcoholism and just plain addiction in this show, played out through the character of LaRue, who, even after he hits rock bottom and he tries to reform in the typical TV section, alcoholism continues to be something that plagues him. The highlight of the show from a purely entertainment point of view is probably watching Detective Belkner and Patrolman Hill and Rinko, who banter back and forth as they drive through the streets, but also deal with very real issues and have to deal with things like child abandonment, teenage girls who have kids who then leave them while they go to try and make some money to support their kids, and the impossible situation that creates, and and other things like that. And they talk about and their bantering talks about the social implications of everything they encounter on the streets, but it feels very realistic, and what is more important, it's written in an entertaining way where there is always something just a little bit fun about hearing these two people who are such good friends that they can argue strongly back and forth their opposing points of view, and you see that each of them has a point. And the show doesn't judge anyone for having their point of view. It takes a detached attitude, dude, that very well matches the documentary style the show is shot in. That everyone's point of view is simply formed by their life experiences, and it's usually based on what they think is either best for the world at large or what they think is best for them. And it doesn't really judge people for trying to get through life by getting what's best for them done. And it just shows that that is life and you have to deal with it. And yes, you're going to have selfish people. Yes, you're going to have to deal with criminals, but again, that is life. And that is probably what sums up this show better than anything else, and its attitude. Its attitude is more of a c'est la vie, in such is life. And that's what it attempts to show you. And it is one of the most entertaining shows you will ever see that does this. And every episode will give you something to think about, something to laugh about, and it'll leave. And it may seem kind of depressing, but I think a better word to describe it again would be what I used earlier: melancholy. Its theme song encapsulates this perfectly, and it is no wonder why this show was a very popular show when it first came on, and it still holds up today as one of the best, most realistic depictions of not just police work, but of being part of the lower middle class, working class in the United States. Much of what it shows rings true even today. And, and it does the public a service by showing not only not only what happens when police officers cover up abusive officers, but also how honest human mistakes and human errors can lead to some of the things that you see in headlines. And it doesn't give anyone a break. Not the gang members, not the citizens, and certainly not the police. It's a well balanced show, and it is well worth watching. And if you have seen it before and haven't seen it in years, I would recommend that you go back and rewatch it, as it is well worth revisiting, as the stories and characters have held up insanely well, especially in its first two seasons, which may be the best first two seasons any TV show has ever had. They are that good. So do yourself a favor and check out something that is different and that will give you an actual idea of what people were actually thinking in the year 1984, and what they thought and what got their attention back then. Don't just stay in a 2000s nostalgic recreation of the 80s. Take a trip back to the real 80s and enjoy one of the best TV shows ever made. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.